A new day has turned into doomsday for Bahamians who were subject to higher bills, another murder record, and a government that prioritized traveling with family, lovers, and friends over fixing the issues on the home front. 2022 under the Davis administration has been a difficult year for Bahamians, with taxes on food affecting the poor and middle class, while the wealthy received tax breaks on pleasure crafts such as luxury yachts and a reduction on taxes by 2% on property sales valued at more than $2 million. If putting taxes back on bread, basket foods, and medicines wasn't enough as Bahamians deal with high inflation, the PLP dropped another bomb with an increase in electricity bills due to negligence. The Minister of Works and Utilities, Alfred Sears, and the Prime Minister, Philip Brave Davis, were both caught lying about a fuel hedging program left in place by the former F&M administration. Both claimed they never saw any reports that recommended the hedging program, but later Minister Sears admitted they did, but did not follow through on the recommendation to lock in oil prices so that the country would not be affected by higher prices in the future. Sears not only lied in Parliament, which warrants his resignation, but his actions have serious consequences for Bahamians who must now pay much more for electricity at a time when the cost of living is steadily rising. The PLP's big mistake has cost the Bahamian people over $100 million. Meanwhile, the government cut the social services budget and increased its travel budget. As the Prime Minister fulfills his bucket list of places to visit, Bahamians are getting used to the term gone again. With huge entourages of family, friends, and others, the Prime Minister continues to travel the world with very little to show for it except extravagant bills for food, luxury accommodations, and first-class flights paid for by taxpayers. Besides, outrage from many Bahamians, an international ratings agency has warned the New Day government to cut back on traveling, but the Davis administration has been self-serving and continues to ignore the cries and needs of the Bahamian people. Speaking of traveling, the Davis administration tried to pull a fast one when it used money from the public treasury to fund a political trip for supporters, family, and friends to Bermuda. The charter flight alone for the trip costs more than $22,000. Persons in aviation believe that the actual figure could be more than $50,000. The bill for food and accommodations is also said to be huge. The thing is, the government almost got away with sticking the bill to the taxpayers. Luckily, members of the media and opposition questioned who paid for the trip. The government eventually admitted to breaking the law and said it would reimburse the public treasury, although they have not provided proof of the actual total cost of the trip. They are daily seeking to prosecute former F&M officials, but even when they are caught yellow-handed breaking the law, there is no punishment, no penalty. The Davis administration, while traveling the world, neglected basic and critical infrastructure needs like the water situation in Eleuthera that has gone on for weeks. In the midst of a busy tourist season, there were days with no water. For the longest time, the Davis administration did nothing about the situation. But after cries from the public and opposition grew louder, the government now says it will rectify the situation. There are serious health risks and the quality of life has been reduced. The inconsistency of water supply is made worse and more expensive by the periodic power outages. Sadly, Eleuthera is not the only island suffering this inconvenience. San Salvador residents are calling for improvements in their water supply system. And while the government increased its travel budget and organizes numerous receptions and parties, roads throughout the country were neglected. Gaping potholes can be seen on roadways throughout the country. Some of them were responsible for serious accidents. Bahamians have been calling for the roads to be fixed, but their calls have fallen on deaf ears. From New Providence to our family of islands, residents are pleading with this PLP-led government to fix the problem. The New Day government seems paralyzed and clueless in tackling some critical issues. This includes the illegal migration problem and the out-of-control construction of houses on government land on numerous islands, including Abaco, New Providence, Eleuthera, and Andros. Instead of fixing the situation, the North Abaco MP Kirk Cornish stands in the House of Assembly and makes a joke about it. Abaconians didn't find it amusing at all. PLP MP stood by as the Davis administration kicked Bahamians out of domes in Abaco, despite the fact that some had nowhere to go. The government showed no heart or compassion for the people. In Andros, the government showed how cold and heartless it is towards Bahamians by canceling bus contracts after contract holders borrowed thousands of dollars to acquire their buses. Just another display of victimization by the Davis administration. This action was decidedly different from what was done under the F&M. On Grand Bahama and Abaco, the Davis-Cooper administration has failed to help the vast majority of Dorian victims with the repairs to their homes and duty-free concessions to bring in building materials needed to restore their homes and businesses. After months of boasting and bragging that the Grand Lucayne was all but sold, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Tourism Chester Cooper, on the heels of a hurricane taking aim at Grand Bahama, announced that the sale of the hotel had collapsed. The news was a double whammy for Grand Bahamians gearing up for the hurricane. On top of the Grand Lucayne deal blowing up, construction has not started on the airport or hospital in Grand Bahama. To make matters worse, Grand Bahama is saddled with an ineffective minister who has earned the reputation of an unavailable out-to-lunch photo op minister. There are calls all across Grand Bahama, including from PLPs who want Ginger Moxie out, calling her lousy and ineffective and catering to a select few. We can't talk about bad and ineffective policies without mentioning Minister of National Security Wayne Munro. Under his watch, another murder record, which currently stands just under 130. Recently, he has gone quiet. The public awaits a comprehensive crime plan, which he and his colleagues have yet to produce more than a year later. Some Bahamians say allowing the buffoon Rodney Moncur to be a consultant in his ministry shows just how serious the Davis administration is about crime. Yes, and speaking of crime, months and months later, the Commissioner of Police has still not revealed the outcome of an investigation into the Minister of Transport and MP for Elizabeth Estates allegedly hitting a police officer with her SUV, giving the impression that there is one set of rules for those in the Davis administration and another for the rest of us. Furthermore, there is no word on the issuance of more than 600 taxi plates in an appropriate manner. This spend and tax administration have failed to speak clearly and convincingly about our government's efforts to address the FTX implosion and the potential risks to our jurisdiction, and to state unequivocally whether any parliamentarians benefited personally or privately from the owners of this company. Early revelations suggest that the Attorney General failed to rebuke SPF when, in an email to the AG, he offered to make whole account holders in the Bahamas, which was clearly an illegal offer given that liquidators had already been appointed. It is our hope and prayer that this Davis-Cooper administration would settle down and govern for all Bahamians, and do so by working with Bahamians from all walks of life and all sides of the political divide.